And here we stand and look upon the man who left it all behind. What's up, guys? I love Hunter here, and here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 236 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as Go South. Hallelujah! We finally got a new chapter name, though unfortunately that chapter name seems to instantaneously debunk all the copium, every last bit of copium that I've heard in this chapter. But it's unfortunate. There's like I think there's one stable piece of copium left after the drop of that chapter title. But we got a lot to talk about today, so let's not waste any more time. Editing me, I need you to do me a favor. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? Suggle Pencil here. Fun fact, I have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact, I guess Sukuna did have it on him, and he in fact did keep it on him, at most times. And Sukuna didn't waste any more time, because he chopped right into it. But before we get into that, we got a whole bunch to talk about, and just know, I got a little something on me. We ain't gonna do it just yet. We ain't gonna do it just yet. My apologies. I do not have the appropriate attire on entirely. I do not have a black button-down shirt. I figured the blazer and the all black was close enough, because obviously we're here for the end of somebody. But let's not waste any more time. Let's actually hop right into chapter 236. Hey, long time no see, best friend. Hey, this doesn't seem a little. Actually, I'm not even gonna play the game. You know. If you're on the 236 review, you know. But Gojo goes, "You're kidding me. This sucks." Pretty rude to say. Pretty rude thing to say right after seeing someone's face. Pretty true. I'd be a little bit disappointed if I showed up in my homie's afterlife and the first thing he said to me was, bleh. It's a little bit rough. But, of course, Gojo Satoru and Suguru Geto. You can clearly see this is genuinely Geto, because there ain't no stitches across that man's nose. He is, in fact, going in the afterlife source. And we see that certain things have transpired. Certain things are going to have me using this very early on. I've always told my students, when you perish, you'll be alone. So please tell me this is just some ridiculous dream. Doesn't matter. So, as you can tell, if you somehow avoided it all, and you mystically, magically waited for that guy with a pencil review, number one, thank you. I really appreciate that. And number two, Gojo Satoru is cooked. Chopped, if you will. So, for the strongest sorcerer, or second strongest sorcerer, or the strongest sorcerer of the modern day. I guess Sukuna now is technically part. So the second strongest sorcerer in history, unless Kashimo surpasses him. Ooh, water dripping. Gotta knock one back for Brody. That was water. I only drink water. Legitimately. Now I have to only drink water. People are trying to lose some weight. But regardless, with that being the case, Gojo is teeny tiny bit of denial. He's like, no way there's actually an afterlife, dog. Please tell me I'm just lost off that RTC sauce right now. Please tell me them 4 black flashes got me feeling some type of way. But obviously, Geto's like, broski, really? Even if you are tripping off the sauce, ain't you just happy to see me right here at the end before your body ceases all consciousness? Aren't you happy? Aren't you proud to see me? Come on, broski. And we see that Gojo acknowledges something. He says, then there's the stuff with his dad. So here's the thing. You can see me mention this in the live reaction, which you can check out on Patreon for as low as $1 a month, or become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to check out quarter live reaction for this. And also in the spoiler discussion video, I thought it was weird that Gojo mentioned his dad. And a bunch of people are like, are you shocked that he has a dad? I was like, yes. Low-key, I kind of thought Gojo was just birthed by the world. But in all seriousness, I thought it was weird that he randomly mentioned his dad, considering he never mentioned his parents before. And good to know that I was actually right, and it made absolutely no sense. And he's talking about Megumi and Toji. Like, he mentioned that he told the promise to Megumi, and I think even Gege said in an interview that Gojo was going to tell Megumi that, oh yeah, I also got your dad up out of here, you know what I'm talking about? I lit that man up. Like, obviously, Gojo meant to tell him that. Gege said in an interview that Gojo was going to tell him that. Obviously, Gege. I guess maybe it's not impossible, right? It's not impossible because... Actually, no, I can talk about it right now. Because after he says this, and then there's the stuff with his dad. You know what? Whatever. I guess I asked Shoko to handle that. Now, Gojo, I understand. Don't worry, we're in a simultaneous burial and therapy session. Gojo, I know you think that Shoko can tell him that, but there are two big issues, one way or another, on why Shoko could never tell him that. Issue number one, arguably the more prominent one. Megumi's, his brain isn't functioning anymore, bro. You ruined him. Like he's, even if it was by accident, you ruined broski. His brain, I'll show you what, this is Megumi's brain right now. It has about the same consistency as that water. Straight liquid. Knock that one back for Megumi, because bro's gone. Like, like legitimately, I don't know why he thinks Shoka's gonna be able to tell Megumi anything. If, like, once again, ultimate impossible super happy scenario, Megumi actually lives, oh, he's gonna be... Like, Shoko will probably actually perish if she lives. If she lives, because we'll get to that in a second. But Shoko would likely perish of old age before she could tell Megumi that in a state where he would understand it. At best, Megumi's immobile for the rest of his life. No. I lowballed it. I lowballed in the spoiler discussion with my calc. And admittedly, I was wrong. It's only 2 months. The people in Shibuya that experienced the 0.2 second domain only experienced it for, they only needed 2 months recovery. But dog, even cutting my like 100-year estimate in half to 50 years to compensate for my mistake on the 2 months, I lowballed in how long Megumi actually experienced Unlimited Void. Mahoraga came out fully adapted to Unlimited Void. He wasn't hit by one sure hit. Probably not two. Bro was in there for a hot second. A hot second. Like a hot second. Bro was experiencing that unlimited sauce for a while. His brain, soup. Soup. If that. And even if not that, dog, Megumi, if he is at all conscious, he probably isn't very responsive because he now thinks, thanks to, obviously, Gojo, or I guess Gojo, he now thinks that he, with his own hands, ended up harming his own friends in multiple ways. Not only just like physically harming them by punching them or hitting them with cleaves and dismantles, but also legitimately harming his friends by simply existing and allowing the King of Curses to incarnate him. He dropped his own sister in his own mind, and now he dropped his own sensei / father figure. The man he knew for more than he knew his actual dad. Probably, I say, about twice as much. I forget how old exactly Megumi is when Gojo first gets him, but like, for twice as long than he actually knew Toji. He believes he dropped that too. His soul is likely non-existent. It is probably, if any of it's left, that much. I'm not talking about the gap in my hand here. I'm talking about the gap between my fingers. Like, generally, they're nearly touching. And that's how much of his soul is left, if any of it is left. So there's that front. But Gojo, unless the savior that revealed himself at the end of this chapter is actually a savior and not someone who's going to get 2-tapped or 1-tapped, Gojo, everyone's going to join you very, very soon. Because you left the biggest threat to their existence holistically alive. And of course, it's not your fault. As you claim yourself in this chapter, we'll get to it, you stood no chance against him, even if he didn't have the 10 shadows. It was worthless for you to fight him. Well, not worthless. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe it was worthless. We'll talk about that soon enough. But, dog, Shoko's not going to be able to tell him anything, because Shoko's going to perish. She'll join you soon enough. Itadori's not going to be able to tell him anything, if you even asked Itadori to tell him anything, because he's going to join you too. So is Yuta. So is Maki. So is Akari. So is everybody. Gojo, this airport's going to be very, very crowded very, very soon, dog. Like, I don't know why he thinks that Choko's going to be able to tell him anything. Because literally, unless, I'll admit, Gege is going to have to reach deep, and I mean deep, into his copium and generic shonen bag for the cast to even remotely win. At all. And I'm being dead honest. Like, I guess Gojo's being dead honest too. But with that being the case, like, dog, it's impossible for them to win now. There should, at least from what's set up right now. I know Kashima's about to come in and go crazy with his curse technique, but let's be omega generous. Let's say Kashimo is going to come in and clean house on Sukuna. His once in two lifetimes curse technique that he can only use once, and it's coming from the strongest sorcerer of the Edo period. Let's say it does just take out Sukuna. The cast is not beating Kenjaku. What are they going to do when he goes domain expansion and he crushes them all with gravity? And then while they're all immobilized by the gravity domain expansion, he drops multiple cursed spirits on their dome pieces. What are they going to do against the merger? What are they going to do against that? You're gone, bro. You were their only hope. Like, love with you real quick. Gojo, Sukuna was up here on top of the screen, literally out of range. You were apparently right here on the top of the screen. And then the rest of the cast is down here, off the bottom of the screen. Dog. All your friends are gone. And you left them all alone. Like, I don't know. I'm not even going to try and bar that. But like, dude, what do you think Shoko's going to tell anybody? Like, this is crazy to me that he actually thinks they stand a chance. And maybe, once again, maybe Gege is just going to pull it. Maybe he is going to go full generic shonen ending. But, like, at this point, Sukuna one-shotting the ball would be mercy, and him not just making their lives awful with physical stuff. Like, legit, I don't know, bro. You talking pretty confident. But let's see. He says, or Geto says, so, how's the King of Curses? Really strong. He wasn't even giving it all he had. Now, this has been a topic of hot debate, spicy debate. And let me tell you. You know what? Let me say though. Let me finish the full phrase because we gotta talk. We gotta chat about this. Because I'm here to chat. If you couldn't tell, I am a maximum prestige licensed yapper. So allow me to yap a little bit. Insanely strong, and he wasn't even giving it all he had. Honestly, I don't think I would have won, even if he didn't have Megumi's 10 shadows. Now, here's my thing. Does it make sense? Yes. Now, you may be wondering, wait a minute, Mr. Gojo Glazer Extraordinaire, are you switching up on me? But here's the thing. It is clear. It is crystal clear, the first half of that statement. And he wasn't giving it all he had. That is 100% confirmed. Sukuna never went into his forearm state, where he was much beefier and stronger, would have benefited a lot more from reinforcement in fighting Gojo. And he clearly never pulled out his curse technique. Shrine is an ability of his. I don't think it's his curse technique. Even though I think Gege listed it as a curse technique in the data book. He listed like Shrine or like Cleave and Dismantle and the Flame Arrow all under Sukuna curse techniques. But like I think those are curse techniques in the same way that Blue is Gojo's curse technique. Like, yeah, it is, but it's not the entire thing. We don't even know Sukuna's curse technique's name. So in terms of Sukuna not giving it all he had, well, yeah, that's clear. That's actual factual. However, it's the second half of the statement that kind of, like, it kind of feels off. But let's talk about why. I honestly don't think I would have won, even if he didn't have Megumi's 10 shadows. My thing is, though, especially considering, but then again, Gojo doesn't know what Sukuna's saying at the end. But then again, he does respond to Sukuna. But then again, I keep saying, but then again, the timeline of this chapter is so weird because of how Gege did it. But with this being the case, how? Like, I'll even, we're gonna jump to what Sukuna says. We're gonna jump. Yep, I'm skipping a whole other bunch because this is a review. I don't really have to take it in linear order. I always do it because it's simpler that way. But what we see here, I'm sorry, the hounds are going crazy. I'll do my best to mute them. I have no idea why they are freaking and geeking right now. But with that being the case, we see that Sukuna himself admitted that he wanted Maharaga to create a model for him to tear through his infinity. AKA, he couldn't do it on his own. Like, I get he was holding back, but like, dog, what? I don't know. Maybe, I guess. I don't know. Like it just feels weird that he says he wouldn't have even needed Megumi's 10 shot. Like, I'm fine. Because a lot of people have chalked this up to, let me go back here. A lot of people have chalked this up to Gojo simply giving Sukuna his due props and pointing out the obvious. But here's my thing, right? There's a difference between respect and glazing. And trust me, as a licensed, registered, and renowned, well, not renowned, licensed and registered, and well-trained, I'd say. But I wouldn't say renowned. But as a prestige Gojo glazer myself, I know the difference between respect and glaze. Saying that Sukuna wouldn't have even needed the 10 shadows feels wrong, considering what the battle showed us when Sukuna didn't have access to the one thing of his own that could bypass the 10 shadows. Or no, bypass the neutral limitless. Do you remember what happened when Sukuna was being fought inside his own domain expansion? Do you remember how he couldn't take Gojo out inside of it? And in fact, Gojo, in their first major domain, after Sukuna merely shattered his domain through the usage of his external domain, after he shattered Gojo's first two domains, and then he and Gojo actually started fighting, in the first one, when Gojo was forced to use Symbol Domain, Gojo not only tanked Well of Unshrine, but then knocked Sukuna back into it and did damage to him in his own domain with a red. Then, after they got to the neutral domain battles, where Gojo had made his domain extra durable, he was going equally with Sukuna, if not outspeeding him and doing more damage to him consistently at that point. Then after that, when both domains were shut down, Gojo was literally dragging Sukuna throughout the city. And giving Sukuna the game, like literally giving Sukuna the game away by simply hitting him over and over and over again with techniques that he knew were not going to be lethal. Legitimately. I'll admit, now that presumably this fight is over, I'm going to go through and highlight all the stupid things that Gojo did. Because there were countless stupid things in this fight that easily could have won it. But considering the characterization that we get for Gojo in this chapter, him being stupid is probably actually more in character for him than I thought. I may have been 100%. Once again, this chapter alone recontextualizes and kind of like all of Gojo's characterization for me, or at least my interpretation of it. I will readily admit when I'm wrong, and it seems like I may have just been wrong about Gojo's entire character this time based on how this chapter goes. But we will get to that soon enough. But to focus on the glazing, it seems a little bit extra. I have no idea. Once Sukuna's technique is revealed, if he even has to do it, I highly doubt he will. But if he even has to do it, once his technique gets revealed, and we find out it ultimately had the potential to bypass infinity all along, then I will buy this. But the fact that Gojo, after going through the fight he just went through, that he only just now lost because Sukuna used the 10 Shadows technique well. The fact that he says he didn't need it feels incorrect. It just doesn't sit right with me. It leaves a poor taste in my mouth, even if I can kind of maybe see it. But even then, I don't know. We got a lot to get through, so I'll just leave it at that. It doesn't feel right. But of course, we see Geto say, "I'm shocked anyone can make you admit that." But we see that Gojo gives into a very important part of his characterization. This is something that I've long understood about the character, and I think a lot of people have. Still, I kind of feel sorry for him. What do you mean? I'm no stranger to feeling isolated. There was always a gulf between me and other people, even if they adored me. You can admire a blooming flower, but you can't ask it to understand you. So, and this is interesting, especially considering he's talking to Geto, of all people. He says there was always a gulf between me and other people, even if they adored me. At least at the point that they're being portrayed as right now, back in their teenage days, seemingly before Geto's rebellion and all that, it feels weird that he says there was always a gap. I thought the reason Geto was his best friend, the reason Geto is his light in life, the reason Geto saved him from going down a path of absolute despair and destruction, where he actually, ironically, would have maybe become the strongest. We'll say. Or, no, we won't say. We will definitely not say. But what could have been is because Gojo and Geto were the strongest together. They had each other to identify and connect with. As when Gojo became too much of the strongest on his own, that he individually felt isolated and accidentally isolated Geto from himself. That's what I thought. In fact, I even feel like that's something that Gege's sort of acknowledging through Geto's far-off look and silence here. Because it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of disrespectful to their dynamic and their relationship. Friendship, whatever. I mean, I don't even care. I mean, I see it. Don't get me wrong. I see it. Maybe it's just the Gojo X Geto fan art that's got me seeing it a bit too much. But hey, I mean, I ain't knocking it. But that being the case, I feel like Gege's even acknowledging that it's kind of a weird statement for Gojo to make, because Geto's looking like always, broski. Really, 100%. Like we weren't ever. I never made you feel unisolated. There was always a gulf between us. Like, no, really, darn, that kind of hurts. Like, I don't know, that kind of hurt. Like, I'm trying to think of an equivalent comparison. I can't think of one specifically in my life, mainly because I was never a Jujutsu Sorcerer. So, no, I was a Keyblade wielder once. They used to call me something like the Master of Math. No, I'm kidding. But with that being the case, imagine if you and your best friend, your A1 since day one, the person you've known for a majority of your life, someone that you've bonded with on a deep interpersonal level, that you may never ever reach that bond with somebody else again within your human lifespan, suddenly turned around and said something that entirely devalued your entire friendship. Like they said, oh yeah, I never actually viewed you as my friend, or I never actually viewed you as a peer or anything like that. You were just someone like the others who liked me or admired me or thought they were my friend. Like, how would that make you feel? Would that feel right? Would that feel appropriate? Like, I don't know. If my best friend would have turned around and said it to me, I'd be like, really? Like, I guess I'd probably have the same Geto reaction. I'd probably be quiet for a second, like, no, what? But who knows? Tell me how you would take that. How would you take being essentially, I don't want to say devalued, that seems like too harsh of a way to put it, but like, how would you take being undervalued by someone you viewed as your peer, your best friend? Like, I don't know. That would kind of hurt. That would hurt a decent bit. But once again, this is a very important part of Gojo's character. The isolation that came with the strongest title. This so far, well, outside of the weird disregarding of Geto and this little statement right here, this so far, well, and minus the glazing, the insane glazing, and minus the disregard of Geto, you know, the major thing that drove Gojo for a majority of his life, this side of characterization makes sense. In fact, not the excess glazing, I'm sorry, the glazing doesn't make sense at all. I feel that I hate to chalk it up. That feels like Gege speaking through Gojo. And I know that's technically every single character with every single action, every single drawing, but I don't know. Especially considering the kind of person that Gojo's revealed to be. In this chapter in particular, I still don't feel like the Gojo that we get in this chapter would have said something like that. But whatever. But that is the current Gojo. He is saying it, so this is Gojo's character. But this now is your only hope of copium. Our only hope of copium. For me and all the Gojo fans out there, this one flower that represents something from Buddhism. I think that, 8 steps north and something about Buddha. I'm sorry, I have no idea about Buddhism. I just read Record of Ragnarok. That's all I got. That's literally all I got. But I've heard a bunch of people saying this flower symbolizes rebirth, the reincarnation, and something about Buddhist symbolism. And obviously, Gojo has been connected to the Buddha for a while now as a transcendent being and stuff like that. But clearly, I'm not sure. This is a question. Once again, this is only coming from my knowledge of regular Ragnarok. I know there's like June, but is there like an actual person that was secretly stronger than Buddha all along within Buddhism? I don't know. I know in Journey to the West, doesn't like Sun Wukong translate? I haven't read that either. But again, that one you can't blame me. That's like the One Piece of old storytelling. That thing's infinitely long, at least from what I know. Like Overly Sarcastic Productions has been doing a play-by-play of that entire thing and skipping over massive sections, and they've been doing that for the past like 7 years. I don't even think they're halfway through the darn thing. So don't get mad at me for not reading Journey to the West. But would that be the case? I don't know. I think at the end of that, Sun Wukong transcends Buddhahood. And I know in another series, that's spoilers, that I want to talk about, because that's literally my favorite piece of fiction of all time, another character ends up completely transcending everything and everything, including their story's version of Buddha. And they also happen to be a Sun Wukong parallel, if not Sun Wukong. Okay, that's a massive spoiler. But regardless, and this is the only piece. This flower. But even then, with the chapter being titled Go South, with the translations that came out earlier being confirmed to not be that at all, with Gojo's general mentality in this chapter, what's revealed with Gojo's character in this chapter, I think it legitimately does not make sense for him to come back. I think this is it. And honestly, at the end of it all, you'll find that I'm fine with that, even if I have a bunch of little complaints along the way. That's essentially what this review is going to be. It's going to be praise and a bunch of little complaints along the way. But he does bring up a good point. You can admire a blooming flower, but you can't ask it to understand you. So, once again, that's interesting, because Gojo's essentially saying, because remember what he talks about, there was a gulf between me and other people, even if they adored me. So essentially Gojo's saying is, when it comes down to brass tacks, no matter what, you can admire a blooming flower, but you can't ask it to understand you. Gojo said no one could understand where he stood from, and everyone else simply admired him. There were never any other more complex feelings towards Gojo, such as care, respect, admiration, anything like that. Well, actually, no, admiration. He said that's the only thing. No one could ever understand him, ever in his life. Which, once again, devalues the relationship he had with Geto, but hey, it'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. And we see that Gojo finally did find a flower that he could admire. He finally did find someone who may have been able to understand him, but ultimately they couldn't understand him either. As he says, I put everything I had into trying to reach him, to make him understand. All my physical training, all those techniques I mastered, my explosiveness, quick thinking, and attempts at humor. I gave it my all, but it wasn't enough. That loneliness that comes with unrivaled strength. The one who will teach you about love is... Gojo couldn't even teach Sukuna about love. He was too weak. He was too fodder. To the point where Sukuna didn't even have to go all out. Didn't even have to reveal his true technique's name. Didn't have to restore his original form. And beat Gojo with a toy in the 10 Shadows. That's how fodder Gojo was. I don't know. Once again, maybe it just feels off to me. But then again, that's the Gojo glazer in me. I can't even chalk this up to anything but the Gojo glazer in me. But the fact that I think it's the contrast. And trust me, you're going to hear me talking about... In fact, do I talk about it now? I'll talk about it once we get to it. But here's the thing. Even I, with my I have a degree. It is not in literature. I've written things. I am not a professional writer. I draw things. I am not a professional mangaka. Trust me. Look. Hold on a sec. Wait a minute. Let me show you. Let me show you how unprofessional I am. Oh no. Please don't fall. I beg of you. Ah. We're breaking the... Is it breaking the fourth wall? Ah. Damn. Oh wait, no. Everything's going off kilter because I tried to grab it. I'll hope this works. Editing me, you figure it out. But let me show you. Oh, jeez. I've been trying to practice with my physical art because it's been a hobby. I've been doing a bunch of digital art recently, so I want to make sure I haven't lost my touch. So I've even started to draw. Even then, look at the quality difference between what I can produce and what Gege can produce. I know Gege is an infinitely better writer than me and an infinitely better artist, but big booty butt cheeks. My thing is if I drew the last 13 chapters of this fight, I think 13? Yeah, the last 13 chapters of this fight. If I drew that, and with all the general dominance that Gojo showed, winning the 3v1, destroying Maharaga, beating Sukuna in his own domain, all that, to flip around and say that Gojo just wasn't enough, he didn't push Sukuna at all, he wasn't giving it his all to try and win, and have Gojo say that and genuinely believe it, like he's not even remotely joking, I genuinely wonder if he forgot the fight he just wrote. Right? Like, once again, it's probably, I'm 99.9999999967264% confident that this is legit just the Glazer in me that's refusing to go out properly. Unlike Gojo, it's not going to go quietly into the night. But with that being the case, dog, it just does, like, the whiplash is built in narratively. I understand that facet of the writing. I do. This is purposeful. He ends 235 with saying Gojo wins, Gojo being at the top of his game, Gojo 4 Black Flashes and then he instantly off-screens Gojo, specifically to have that flip, that very distinct flip of, yeah, to, like, that is how you do shock value. It's very much a, what's that? Stanley, it's not Kubrick. Who is it? Who is that one director? The guy who, hold on, now this is going to bother me, so I'm going to hit the Googler with it real quick. It's not Kubrick. If you think I know nothing, I definitely do not know my movies. So give me 1 second. There is La Bomba under the table. Under the table. Director. Who is that? Who said that? Hitchcock. There we go. Alfred Hitchcock. Here's the thing. In terms of building suspense, fear, confusion, unknown, there are two ways you can do it. And personally, it feels like Gege took the opposite approach to what Hitchcock mentioned in his ever-famous interview when it talks about building suspense and building fear. The way Hitchcock described it is that if you let your audience know that there is a La Bomba underneath the table, and it simply goes off, the audience learns the same second that the characters in the narrative do, then there is no suspense. There is no fear. There's a moment of shock. There's a surprise of, oh, La Bomba! And then there's boom. But then afterwards, that sort of fades. That's what Gege did. Gege is explaining to us that now, in retrospect, that there was La Bomba underneath the table. And he just detonated it. That's what he did from 235 to 236. The detonation was Sukuna's new technique, and boom, cleaved Gojo in half, off screen. That's where the shock value comes in. But preferably, and once again, maybe I'm no director, no writer, no mangaka, never have, never will be, never could be good enough to be one. But if I had to say something, I do wish we could have gone with what Hitchcock believes is a good buildup of fear. And I'll admit, Gege was doing it well in the first section of the fight. The domain aspect of the fight was pretty good at building fear, but the last couple chapters have been a little not good at that. But what I mean is, in battle, more deeply, not just a panel here or there, give us genuine moments of Sukuna seeming bored. Sukuna seeming uninterested. Sukuna being unamused by Gojo. Build the suspense more properly. As Hitchcock says, let the audience know that there is La Bomba underneath the table. And let us sit there while the characters in the series don't know. And the suspense, the worry, the buildup comes from that. So when this happens, when La Bomba finally hits 0 on the counter and it booms on some Sonic Boom type beat. Not Sonic Boom. I forget. I still need to look up what Sonic game that's from. But when that happens, when we get La Bomba going off, it feels earned. It feels satisfying. You don't have to retroactively go back and explain, oh, there was a La bomba underneath the table this entire time. That's usually what a lot of the shock value things do. They'll have to retroactively go back and tell us this. And once again, you can go back into the Gojo versus Sukuna fight, these past 13 chapters, and see Gojo's uneasiness, see Gojo's wariness. But once again, it's mainly for a chapter, or not even a chapter, usually a panel or two, before he immediately goes back and whooping Sukuna's behind, dragging him around, having Sukuna literally screaming for Maharaga. Like, it's simply like what I'm being told and what I'm shown are not, they ain't linking properly. They're too diametrically opposed. That's what I see. And you can tell me everything. You can tell me that Gojo gave it his all. You can tell me that Gojo thinks that Sukuna was holding back massively and that he couldn't reach him. You can tell me all that. And you can tell me 100% that Gojo believes that Sukuna could beat him even without the 10 Shadows technique. You can tell me all that. But from what you've shown me, it doesn't work. It doesn't line up. It's that disconnect. And once again, I get it. The disconnect is purposeful. Gege was not going for a Hitchcockian approach. I think he should have, though. It would have made this not even go down smoother. It would have just made more sense. At least in my opinion. But we see that Gojo had fun. That's the most important thing, right? Having fun. Not to mind that, everyone else is not going to be having fun pretty soon. I mean, they may join you. Maybe they'll have fun in the afterlife. But we see that Gojo says, Sukuna wasn't able to give me his all, though. And I think that's a darn shame. So once again, laying it on thick. Like, once again, ironically enough, I do have icing. I could literally... I'll make a separate video about it. I won't do it now. Now that I've thought of that idea, I have a separate idea of an intro for a video. So I may actually go get some glaze. But once again, Gojo laying it on thick. Sukuna is just his definitive superior. There was simply nothing that Gojo could have done ever. And there's no way in any universe that Gojo could have ever beaten Sukuna. That's what this is telling us. Sukuna wasn't able to give me his all, though. Sukuna could have beat me without the 10 Shadows. Sukuna was insanely, unbelievably strong. I never stood a chance. Ignore everything that happened in the past previous chapters. Ignore... And here's the thing, right? I get it. This is from a limited character perspective. This is just Gojo saying it to us. And we've seen contradictory evidence. We've seen the narrator himself that Sukuna felt nervous for the first time in 1,000 years. We've literally had Sukuna's inner monologue on how a full power purple would actually be fatal to him in this time period. We've had all of this. And we even have later glaze from Sukuna in the chapter, which is nice. But once again, in a similar vein to how I mentioned, it felt like Gege speaking through the characters, and technically that's what always is what Gege's doing. This goes the same way. By having Gojo say this, by having Gojo say he was absolute fodder to Sukuna this entire time. And I know, but pencil, he's not actually saying that. But by saying Sukuna wasn't able to give it his all, Sukuna was just a flower that he could admire and never understand, all that, he's essentially just saying that Sukuna was just in an entirely different league from him. There's no, at least in my opinion, there's no other way to really interpret that. And thusly, I feel like it's just cold, hard fact that Gege's trying to tell us that any bit of Gojo ever actually being relative to Sukuna was all a lie. Gojo never stood a chance. And a lot of people did believe that. And I'll even give it to it. Like, once again, I've yet to mention the Sukuna fans yet, because I'm going to glaze y'all later, but the Sukuna fans were right. Gojo never did stand a chance. Gege saying it himself. Gojo saying it himself. And with that being the case, it feels wrong coming out of Gojo's mouth. But once again, I didn't understand the character, as we'll soon get into. We see that Geto says, well, consider me jealous. At least you had satisfaction going out with a bang. Satisfaction, huh? I guess my only disappointment is that you weren't there to give me a slap on the back. Ironically enough, if Geto was still there, I don't think this scenario would be happening. Maybe. I doubt it. No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't if Geto was still alive. But with that being the case, actually maybe Kinjaku would have found a way. But ironically enough, it's still once again you get to see the thought of Gege's or Gojo's character that I thought I understood, his care and desire for Geto to be in his life through this, which is nice. I do like that. And we even see that Geto's soul, afterlife body, something, is in fact crying, and he laughs it off a little bit. So I guess that is to reaffirm their connection after Gojo kind of hit it in the foot earlier. But with that being the case, we see that Gojo says something like this. He said, well, not something like that. He literally just says this. But I guess I am glad I died facing a strong opponent. I'd been embarrassed if I, let some disease or old age get the best of me. And we see a certain someone hop out the woodwork. You know what it'd be like. A certain someone does indeed hop out the woodwork and declares, what are you, a samurai? Or maybe it's supposed to go something more on the lines of, what are you, a samurai? Seriously, you should know it's poor taste to think like that in the present. And Gojo loudly goes, as Nanami and Haibara join the conversation. And we see that the boy Nanami even admits that, again, that mindset of yours is probably why you outlived me. And here's where we get into what I, personally, when I first read it, I thought was heavy Gojo mischaracterization, but I'm just going to chalk this up to me not understanding the character at all. So here's what I thought happened. Wait. Bang! I already thought the character manipulation was already starting to happen a little bit, but we're really going to get into it now. You and Gojo-san miscalculated a bit. And we see that Nanami says, I remember once asking Geto-san why we can't just leave it all to you. Please stop it. After all, you never cared about keeping sorcery going or protecting people. You were just in the game because you got a kick out of it. And then we see Gojo frowns and sweats as if these words are true. And then Haibara doubles down. He says, truth is, we all thought of it. I'm trying to give him a Sonic voice. Hi, it's me, Sonic the Hedgehog. But it literally is Haibara, and I have no idea how to voice this character. Truth is, we all thought about Gojo-san that way. We all thought that about Gojo-san. But we couldn't bring ourselves to say it out loud. Why are you bringing it up now, then? Sorry. Well, that feeling about you was proven right by your actions just a second ago. And once again, Gojo stays quiet and keeps sweating. So, now, let me tell you my interpretation of Gojo's character before this little chunk right here. What I thought Gojo was about was a character who did feel lonely at the pinnacle of creation, but simply wanted to use that loneliness as a good thing to bring other people up, to change sorcery, to save the lives of others, and help people in ways that other people couldn't be helped simply because he had the power. I thought Gojo wanted to do good. And ultimately, the complexity that came with Gojo is the fact that he technically did do good. He saved many lives, but he would always lose the war, no matter how many battles he won. That's what I thought. But I suppose I was simply reading too deep into the character. Because what is confirmed here by Gojo's silence and lack of denial and everyone's affirmation about this, because once again, we got to know, this is Gege telling us information about the character through other characters. Gojo never cared about keeping sorcery going or protecting people. He just fought because he liked it. And, you know what that says? What that tells me? Guess what? It tells me that Gojo is Goku. Specifically Goku before the Moro arc development. I think Moro arc Goku is now a more developed and more interesting character than Gojo. Because if this is to be taken at face value, once again, I'll wait for the official translations to come out. I know these are better translations than what were before. It's a cleaned up chapter, but I know official translation can change things. But essentially what this is telling me is that Gojo was a true example of Goku. Gokuisms. He never cared about helping people. He never cared about protecting people. Any hypothetical moments where we thought he showed care and love and respect or anything, or any real interest in changing the sorcery world for the better or helping other people out, it was all a lie. He only did it for his own sick, twisted pleasure and for the battle that would come from it. Him saving Itadori and Yuta, not actually because he did not like the way the Jujutsu Society was going or anything like that. It's because he wanted to fight Yuta in the future, I guess, or wanted to fight Rika, maybe. And ultimately, because he wanted to fight Sukuna, eventually. You know, that's the main reason he held off Itadori's execution and saved Yuta Okkotsu. Taking Megumi under his wing wasn't actually because he wanted to better Megumi and protect him from the harsh world that would come to him from the nature of the Zenin clan based on the twisted ways of Jujutsu. No, it's actually because he just wanted to fight Megumi later in life, because he knew he had the 10 Challenge technique, the only thing that could actually counter him. Him taking care of and trying to handle Shibuya on his own and save everybody in there wasn't actually because he cared about people and wanted to protect them. No, it's only because he thought fighting the disaster curses on his own, and I guess all those people being there was just a nice extra bonus to the good fight he was going to get. Everything that Gojo does that ever was to protect people was never actually for that reason. Gojo never actually cared about using his power for the betterment of the world. He just thought the world was his own plaything, which ironically enough does deeply link him to his number one idol, his amazing fan, the flower he could only admire, Sukuna. Because remember, what did Sukuna say about being the strongest? Throw it all away. Don't care about people, don't care about ideas, names, anything. In fact, he even praised Gojo Satoru for this. So I guess it really is. It's been there the entire time. I was just reading way too deep into the character. Disregard everything. Be it so that the world only exists for your pleasure, and then destroy whatever may be your displeasure. Sukuna ultimately was right about Gojo. Gojo never cared. He never worried. He never wanted to protect anybody or anything. He was just a brutish meathead who wanted to fight strong things to the detriment of others. For the longest time, I fought against this characterization, because a lot of people said this was Gojo's characterization. Yeah, in my own comment section too. This wasn't just me like generally grazing through the fandom. People in my own comment section mentioned, "Oh, Gojo's just a megalomaniac. He's just a guy who likes to fight." And there's nothing actually complex about the character. I always thought that was wrong. I thought there were so many different actions in the series that contradicted that. Saving Yuta, saving Itadori, risking his life for all these different people with no regard for his own. I thought that was all counter evidence to the fact. But the fact that in this afterlife moment, when he's being critiqued by people and he doesn't fight back, he doesn't disagree, I was wrong about Gojo. And there's nothing I can really do about it. And once again, I could, once again, huffing straight copium. I gotta stop saying once again. What is a synonym for once again? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Because y'all have been calling me out on my lack of vocabulary. So let me see. Newly. Newly. I could chalk this up to another case of Gege telling us one thing and showing us another. I could chalk everything up about this statement as Gege trying to tell us, like he does in all his separate interviews, that Gojo's actually a very shallow character with no personality and will of his own, and is just a guy who likes to fight things a lot, and ignore every single thing that Gojo's ever done that seemed to be in the interest of protecting people, that seemed to be the interest of keeping sorcery going and trying to change the world for the better. I could do that. I don't know if I should, because there are, once again, there are the counterexamples. I'd have to double check. And once again, I'll see. I'll probably, that may be a little side project of mine, along with the 50 other videos I need to make. But that may be a little side project of mine. I want to go back through the entire series and double check every single time Gojo did something good or did something that seemed to protect people, and see if I can apply this interpretation of the character to it. Because this does seem to be, once again, I keep saying once again, I need another word. Anew. I don't even think these words work in the right context, but anew. It seems that this is what Gege wants the character to be, through saying it through these other characters, and using Gojo's silence as an affirmation of these characters' statements. So now I'll go back, and I'll see if I can twist every single thing that Gojo did in a negative light, or in a simplified light. Once again, I just assume now I was reading too much complexity into the character. I thought he was a much deeper character than what was initially presented. But maybe I just gaslit myself into believing such a thing. Maybe Gojo really is just Goku. And depending on how you interpret Goku, Goku can now beat him. Or, well, I know, but that's a complicated discussion for another day. But with that being the case, Nanami says, "Can't say I approve, but I do sympathize. It was a fitting way for you to go out. Fighting someone stronger? If that's what Gojo's entire goal was up to this point, yeah. Fighting someone stronger and perishing to him? I guess that's all Gojo lived for. There was never anything else. Never anything at all." And we see that once again, Gojo does not deny that he is in fact a simple, punchy guy. All the work he did was really just for his own selfish gain. Well, not even. His own selfish want to fight and die a glorious, whatever. Bro is Kaido. He is just Kaido. Without the, well, actually, maybe he is Kaido. With the child endangerment and everything. But we say, yeah, thanks. And how do you feel about your demise? I kind of butted in. Hi, it's me, Haibara. I kind of butted in back then. Curses can bring people back to life, the same way sorcery can. So that's interesting. That's the other little hypothetical piece of copium that's been drizzled by the better translations. Curses can bring people back to life, the same way sorcery can. We already have a character in Yuta Okotsu who has actively cursed a non-sorcerer and brought them back infinitely more powerful than they ever were. So, once again, Gojo fans, if you, just like me, want to cuff some good copium, but even then, I'm not sure if I want this Gojo back. Then again, this is because I don't like that kind of characterization. I do like Goku, though. But I guess it's because I never expected anything more from Goku, or ever I thought anything different of Goku. So once again, I'm going to have to think. I'm going to have to think more. Because once again, I did the live reaction earlier today, literally right before I recorded this review. So I'll have to think about it more. Maybe I'll come to like this Gojo characterization more. But I think this kind of characterization has dropped Gojo straight out of my top 5. If it is to be true. Once again, I'll have to go back. I'll have to reread the series. I'll have to reinterpret all of Gojo's actions. I'll have to think about it more. And see if this is just another case of Gege showing us something, but telling us something different. I'll see. But yeah, that's the last piece of copium. Hypothetically, Gojo could come back as a curse brought by Yuta or the rest of the cast. I don't know. I doubt it. But we see that Nanami says, "I once asked Mei-san about where I should go live. She said, if you'd like to become someone new, go north. If you'd like to return to who you once were, go south. Back then, I didn't hesitate in moving south. I've always been someone who loves looking to the past, so I found it ironic when I died betting on the future. As final moments go, it wasn't too bad, so I'm grateful to Haibara." Oh, you're too kind. So, that's another... Oh, well, wrong blade. Yeah, baby. But that's another... straight into the copium train. That's another direct stab at it. Because a lot of people were interpreting, oh, well, if Donnie was talking about going south and going north, then Gojo's obviously going to go north, right? Because he said goodbye to his mentors and his friends, and he's talking with them to try and get a view of what the afterlife is like, and then he smiles later on the chapter. But considering the chapter is titled Go South, it seems like Gojo is going to go south. But, that being the case, we see someone poured in this in the airport. We'll see this drink again, I do believe. And we see, once again, the reason I do believe, I kind of lightly hinted at this earlier, the reason I believe this is genuinely the afterlife and that Gojo is genuinely going south is because there's no way he should know about Nanami seeing Haibara at the end of all things. Know what I mean? That's a bit too specific. It seems a bit too specific for it to not be the afterlife and just Gojo losing his good mind. Maybe he could make the guess, but that seems so oddly specific. The fact that he knows that Haibara appeared in Nanami's last moments and helped him bet on the future rather than looking towards the past. So that's my thing. That's my thing. I think this is the real afterlife. And we even see Gojo realize that this may not be a dream by the end. But he says, I see. Hey, Principal! Thought you said no Jutsu sorcerer perishes without regrets. You know, the Gojo I thought I knew would be filled with a couple of regrets. Not only the regret that he abandoned everybody and failed at the one task he was given, to use his strength to save the world from the King of Curses, but I think he would also be regretful in the fact that he destroyed Megumi on a spiritual level through using his technique, that he couldn't ever tell Megumi the truth he wanted to tell him for likely over a decade at this point. The fact that soon enough, because of his failure, that everybody is going to die. Every last one of them. Not a single person, from Gojo's perspective, should be able to survive. He does not know Kashimo's curse technique. He does not know that Kashimo will even intervene. We have no context for how long certain things have gone on, or what happened in that month time skip. Essentially, he has no idea. So from his perspective, he should be regretful because everything, the entire world, is now going to fall to two madmen. Another thing, aside from literally everybody dying, is the fact that Geto's body is still being puppeteered about by Kenjaku. You know, the one thing that Gojo seemed to care about? The thing that had him so furious that he ignored the six eyes and actually saw the truth that Kenjaku was not Geto? Yeah, you think he'd also have regrets about that because he never actually got to properly mourn Geto or anything like that. But no. He's dying without regrets, because the complicated character that I thought Gojo was, the one that cared about people, the one that had hopes, dreams, ideologies, wants for the future, and wanted to protect and care for others using the strength that he was blessed with, that Gojo isn't real. That Gojo never existed. The real Gojo, the Gojo that Gege was trying to portray all along, was a selfish, not necessarily power hungry. I still think, let me double check the definition of megalomaniac. Because now I'm going to double check. Actually, let me look up megalomania. Obsession with exercise of power, especially in domination of others. Oh, yes. I guess technically he does fall into that definition. I guess. But then again, he doesn't. Hold on, let me reread that bad boy again. Let me take a double take. Allow me to double take. Obsession with exercise of power, especially in the domination of others. The delusional belief that one is important, powerful, famous as a form or symptom of mental disorder. I mean, I agree, Gojo's crazy. But I guess he is one. I guess he is a megalomaniac. Doesn't care about the fact that the entire world's going to be destroyed. Doesn't care about all the things he supposedly cared about before, such as Megumi, the kids, his own living friends, his allies from the real world, all that. He does not care. He has perished without regret because he got to go out fighting a strong guy. That is the real Gojo. I don't like it. But once again, I cannot chalk this up to character. I can't chalk it up to character assassination until I find something that contradicts this, because you can interpret literally everything major that Gojo's done as simply a flex of his own power and looking for a good way to die. On some Kaido type beat, literally, bro may just be built like Kaido. He may be a fusion of Kaido and Goku. Now, I don't know. Once again, I'll see. I'm probably going to dedicate it in time. It's darn. I've been recording for nearly an hour, but I'll see. I'll see how I feel. I'm gonna give it a few more days before I make this retroactive analysis of Gojo and his character. But I already have the video title. I was wrong about Satoru Gojo. I think I'm fully ready to make it too. Look at everyone laughing, happy, smiling. Look at this. Gojo smiling and laughing. Yaga's all flustered but happy. Haibara's laughing. Nanami's smiling. Riko's even here. Kuroi's here. Is that Toji? Look at him. Look at him in the background. I didn't even notice him in the spoilers. But like, dog, look at him. Look at him. In the same fit he was introduced to us in. Toji's alive. Well, he's not alive, but he's there. He's in Jujutsu Kaisen heaven. I guess this is just an afterlife. This is just an afterlife. Wonder where everyone else is. Presumably there would be trillions of people here, but maybe this is just Gojo's afterlife. Maybe his afterlife is an airport. But it's still so funny that Toji's there. But I guess it makes sense, Toji. I guess Sukuna, if Sukuna ends up losing magically, no matter what, I'll talk about it in a second. But light hint, no matter what, there's nothing that Gege can do. That if the protagonist win in the end, no matter what, it's going to be, in my opinion, I don't want to say bad. Can I say bad? I think I'll say bad. I think I'll say bad for now. I'll say bad. But that being the case, Toji's here. It's nice that Riko's here. It's nice that Kuroi's here. Everyone's nice and happy together, laughing their lives away as everyone else is soon to join them. He says, now I'm hoping this isn't a dream. And we see, in reality, in the real world, in the living world, Gojo Satoru is gone. Sliced in half. I mentioned earlier how I wasn't sure if I wanted to pour one out for Gojo, but I did, out of respect for the character interpretation that I thought he had. But now that I've covered what Gege thinks is the character and what I've been told is the character, and now what I'm starting to see is the character, I don't like it. So I'm not pouring another one out. But Gojo, he's cooked. He's honestly now, if all of what Gege said through these characters is true, he deserved it. He deserved to go this way. I really don't like it. See, like I said, I'm trying to chalk it up. I'm not trying to say it's character assassination or anything like that, because I don't think it's been long enough. I don't think, even as jovial and lighthearted as I am now that I've had about a day and a half to sit down and just be like, well, bro, look. Even with that, I still think I'm like too locked into it. I think I'm too in them. I'm gonna need like 237 to come out. I'm gonna need to think about it some more. But I really don't like this character. The only thing in this chapter that is so far, of course I haven't gotten to the end of it, but we aren't going to get much more of Gojo in this chapter, as you can very likely tell. But the only thing in this chapter that's genuinely felt like the real, well, not the real Gojo, because it's not the real Gojo. What I was believing was a false dream. But this is the only thing that felt like real proper. And even not entirely. I guess my only disappointment was that you weren't there to give me a slap on the back. He should have many more disappointments, but for this new characterization, or what it felt like the old characterization, this one makes sense to me. Because it shows his bonds, his humanity. The rest, I don't really feel all too good about. But we see that Sukuna begins to explain. Let me take a sip so I can get the Sukuna voice down and ready. Maharaga's adaptation can only start after taking a single attack. Then it slowly starts to analyze, and its completion is only a matter of time. If it receives another identical attack during the calculation period, the adaptation accelerates. Once a technique is adapted to, the analysis doesn't stop there. It continues to adapt further. What I wanted from Maharaga was a model of how to tear through your infinity. So, this is the answer that Yuja was looking for, I think, a chapter or two ago. How does Maharaga's adaptation work? Is it just a time-based thing, or is it a repetition thing? It is both. No matter what, well, technically, it's one if only one attack is hit with Maharaga, or if Maharaga is hit with one attack. It will just simply begin to analyze. It will eventually fully analyze completely if you were to hit it with one attack and it survives it. That is true. However, if you keep hitting it with attack, it will just continue to adapt faster and further, which is the interesting part here. That catches my attention quite a lot. Because that means that, once again, it goes back into the stupid things that Gojo's done. He could have just done the purple round start and he would have won. Or maybe not won. No, he wouldn't have won. According to himself, he would not have won. He would never be able to beat Sukuna in no universe, ever, anywhere, no matter what. So according to Gojo, he wouldn't have won. But at least from my understanding of the previous fight that Gege's shown us, that YOLO purple, if he had just opened with that, before Maharaga could have given Sukuna the model, he would have been good. But he fumbled. Bro dropped the ball. He fumbled the bag. But then again, you could argue that he needed to get those black flashes back to get his output back up. So, there you go. But we see that Sukuna did end up, according to himself, he did need Maharaga to do that. But not really. Because note the term of phrasing here. The words used. What I wanted for Maharaga was a model. He did not need it. So once again, this is building this ever-present narrative that Gojo never actually stood a chance against Sukuna. In no world was he ever going to beat Sukuna. No matter what the narrative may have implied up to that point, no matter what the past 13 chapters have shown us, never actually really stood a chance. Because he wanted Maharaga to give him a model, but it wasn't needed. He didn't need. He would figure it out eventually on his own. So there you go. And we see that after first adapting, Maharaga was altering the essence of its own cursed energy in order to neutralize and nullify your infinity. We saw that by when Maharaga came in contact with the infinity, and then by proxy Gojo, he would dispel it, presumably through, once again, as Sukuna says, an adaptation of Gojo's curse. Actually, no, not Gojo's curse energy, the infinity itself. It would shut it off, and that's how Sukuna could attack while Maharaga was in contact. And we see that Sukuna reveals that he, no matter how good he is with Jujutsu, is not able to change the fundamental properties of his own cursed energy. That is just something beyond his pay grade. And ultimately, he wanted to wait and discover another adaptation to counter your infinity, one that he personally could use. Now, there's a little thing here. I guess I gotta view Maharaga as kind of like, what's the nicest way? Phone updates, right? Like, just because your phone updates once doesn't mean all the bugs or glitches are actually gone. There can be new ones discovered and all stuff like that. But it feels weird to me that Maharaga can just adapt in multiple ways. Doesn't it? I don't know. It feels off. But once again, I guess it's just how it is. We didn't know everything about Maharaga, so this is just a thing it can do. But like, I'll put it this way. Imagine if you had a, what's a good example? This is kind of complicated because it's so weirdly Jujutsu specific and mystical magical manga specific. But let's say that I asked you to break, not even cut, let's say break a piece of string. I were to, do I have any string on me? I don't have string. I don't have anything close to string on. Oh, nope, that's also not string. But let's say I had a piece of string right here, and I told you to break it. I put one piece of string in this individual piece. I asked you to break it. Any way possible. Go ahead, try and break it. And you kept trying to hit the spring. We're not playing Sonic. You tried to hit the string. You tried to karate chop it. You tried to kick it. You tried to punch it. But the string would not break. But let's say you figure out, okay, I can't kick it. I can't punch it. The string's super duper tough. But then you notice, wait a minute. I'm with that guy with the pencil. He has it on him and he keeps it on him at all times. And then you pick up my katana. You have a katana now. You swing down on the string. The string's gonna get cut. Like, there's no doubt about it. That string's getting cut up. Now, if I were to place that same piece of string in front of you and ask you to do it again, would you suddenly try to get another katana when the first one worked fine? I'm not sure if the analogy is working, but essentially, I'm wondering why, after already having a way to bypass the limitless just fine, why go out of its way to develop another one? Like, I don't know why Maharaga has the multiple adaptation thing. Like, that feels nonsensical. It feels unoptimal. If you found a way to break something already, why find new ways to break it? I don't know. I guess, once again, instead of the string analogy, you would go with the phone upgrade analogy. You can always get better at doing something. And I guess that's what Maharaga was going for. Feels a little weird, though. But we see that Maki is comforting Yuta as he tightly grips his katana. Probably shaking a little bit. And you know what? I want to feel bad for Yuta, because he's losing someone who literally saved his life. But now that I know that Gojo didn't save his life out of anyone to actually protect Yuta, I feel sad for Yuta. He's about to go risk his life fighting a monster for a man who never even cared about him, never even wanted to protect him. If anything, he just wanted to fight Yuta. Maki, even she's gritting her teeth. And Maki has admitted in the past that she never, well, even the narrator for Maki has admitted in the past that she never really viewed Gojo as a teacher. She always found him a bit annoying and all that. But even she's feeling remorse or concern at his loss. But in reality, she shouldn't feel anything, because he never felt anything about her, never cared about her torture, her suffering, anything like that, if he even knew about it. Even if he did know, he likely wouldn't have cared or done anything for it, because he never cared about advancing Jujutsu or making the world a better place or protecting people. Never. So it's sad to see them like this. And even, in fact, I kind of glazed over it. Look at Itadori. Another man whose life was saved by Gojo. And now he's lost his mentor, the person who had saved his life and given him new hope, a new purpose in life. But unfortunately, if only he knew the fact that Gojo didn't actually care about that. Didn't actually care for him at all. It was worthless. He viewed Itadori as probably nothing but a vessel to fight this guy, because that's all he cared about. He cared about a good fight and dying well. That's it. Never actually cared about any of them. See what doesn't, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it doesn't feel right to me. I know some Gojo fans are like, yes, finally. But like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right to me. But we see that the second adaptation is exactly what Sukuna needed. Or, as he says, the second adaptation was exactly what I had been anticipating, but it wasn't sending slashes flying as I do. It was expanding the technique's target. The target, or the intended target, wasn't just you, Gojo Satoru, but space, the entire world, existence itself. It targeted everything before it unleashed those slashes. Your infinity meant nothing as long as it existed within that space, that world, and it would all be torn apart. It was near impossible to pull that technique off, but the model proved to be quite effective. And as you can see, Gojo did die standing. Halfway there. Halfway standing. And hey, he got a stop off. But with that being the case, Sukuna has essentially developed existence erasure in order to bypass Gojo. That's a good buff for Sukuna. That's a very nice buff for Boro. He's still pretty weak cross-verse though. It's nice that he has existence erasure, but a bunch of characters can resist that. Gojo can't, which is a massive debuff for Gojo. Now, any character that has existence erasure, or anything that, once again, any character that targets space instead of specific targets, a space that someone is existing in, and or has existence erasure, they slam Gojo. So the entire Black Clover cast walks the JJK verse. There's now nothing stopping. Yami, the verse, gone. Langris, the verse, gone. Asta, the verse, gone. just swinging through the whole darn thing, annihilating it all. That's crazy. This is a massive debuff for Gojo. And the verse as a whole. The verse just got a whole lot weaker now that this has been confirmed. But, like Sukuna says, it ended up proving quite effective. He managed to slice Gojo in half. You did well, Gojo Satoru. I won't forget you for as long as I live. And once again, that's some nice glazing from Sukuna. W glazing. Though unfortunately, once again, it does not rectify the fact that Gojo gave him an excess of glaze and Sukuna gave bare minimum glaze. Shoutouts. But another thing, if I had 100% genuine complaint, and not just my very fragile and subjective interpretation of the character has been broken by one chapter, I do think it is a bit disrespectful to Gojo to off-screen him. I think you could have shown us this. I know, once again, it plays into the shock value. That's what this chapter is all for. It is mainly for the shock value. The whiplash of chapter 235 to 236. I understand that. But with that even being the case, wholehearted honest with you, I think Gojo had deserved better. He deserved better than to be off-screened. Even if I definitely do not like this real interpretation of Gojo's character, the new form that he's been given, I will wholeheartedly admit I would have preferred, even if that character that I really don't like now, At least in terms of the character interpretation. Feel free to prove me wrong on that, by the way. I'm pushing it right now, and I'm probably going to make it in a video of its own, but like, feel free to prove me wrong on it. But based on what the character, even based on what this chapter does for Gojo's character, in terms of, in my opinion, degrading it or simplifying it down drastically to what I thought it was, I think he still deserved better than to be off-screen. Like, if you're gonna take his life, give it to us properly. Let us see it. Let me see Sukuna slash. Let me see this existence erasure, space deletion slash that took the strongest sorcerer in half. The fact that he didn't do it, I understand why it's for the shock value, but considering how integral Gojo is to the series of Jujutsu Kaisen, from a writing level to a character level for a bunch of characters, to the meta-narrative level of the popularity of the series, I'm being completely honest. You remove Gojo from the series and the fan base isn't a tenth as big as it is. I don't mean that in like executing him off. If Gojo never existed, Jujutsu Kaisen would not be a tenth of the phenomena that it is. It would not be talked about at nearly at length as much as it is today. Trust me. I may be glazing just a bit. That may be the Gojo glazer coming out of me again. But argue with me on that. Do you really think English? Do you really think Jujutsu Kaisen would be anywhere near as popular as it was if Gojo didn't exist? Let me know that down below. I really want to know. But with that being the case, I feel like it's rude to off-screen him. But I get why they get off-screen him if that's the case. Because it's all for the shock value. So, I don't like it, but I know why he did it. Simply put. And I do, once again, I still do like this. That Sukuna admits that he will remember him. And Gojo even smiles that he was given praise by his senpai, Sukuna. That's nice. At least they had a little bit of a connection there, even if Gojo could have never beaten him. And we see the one man with no regrets, who's hopping, leaving, and scheming and dreaming to get there. You see him hopping, sparing no time to mourn the death of Satoru Gojo. He launches onto the battlefield, Kashimo Hajime, the god of lightning, dashing toward near certain death. The end of chapter 236. There's no break next week. And Sukuna says, I'm feeling great now, so please, don't spoil my pleasure. And Kashimo Hajime lunges into battle. So, this is the end of the chapter. Allow me. I say the chapter's still worthy. You may be wondering, Pencil Man, how could you declare such a thing? It's fundamentally shattered your perspective on Gojo. It has an unordinary amount of glaze for Sukuna. It has very minimum glaze for Gojo. And it devalues the nature of the entire series in your own words. Yes. But Gojo is dead. And that does open the door for something I didn't think we would get in a shonen manga. An absolute dark ending. I think that's got to be coming. But once again, I'll make a video talking about that too. But why do I like the chapter? I like it on a basic level. Seeing Gojo getting to be happy in the afterlife with people he doesn't care about, by the way. He really couldn't care less about these individuals. But seeing him in the afterlife is nice. Getting more stuff with Geto is nice. Seeing Haibara again, nice. Seeing Nanami again, nice. Even getting a cameo of Yaga, who created that filthy, disgusting waste of space. I can't believe you did this. Honestly, wish you didn't exist, just so that thing wouldn't exist. But seeing all that is nice. Seeing Riko and Kuroi is nice. Toji is nice. And even seeing Sukuna and Gojo happy in the end of this conflict is nice. That is what makes the chapter worthy for me. Do I have issues with it? Do I think it devalues a bunch of character stuff? Yes, but I can fully, wholeheartedly admit your boy may have just been wrong. And probably was just wrong. So I can just in the same way that I have to hold the L on Gojo being Sukuna, I'm just going to hold the L on my interpretation of the series up to this point. And now I must simply hope that Kashimo does something, though he's getting one tapped. Sukuna's probably going to say, fine, let's have a lightning battle. And he's going to he's gonna cook Kashimo. I don't. I'll see. The Kashimo videos, it's in the oven. But let me not hold you hostage anymore. If you somehow made it all the way to the end of this gargantuan video, that was a whole bunch of your boy rambling. Please, down below, leave the end of infinity. It can be one word, it can be a full phrase. I don't think people are going to say the end of infinity like the true strongest was for the spoiler discussion. But if you made it all the way to the end, please leave the end of infinity in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the 30-minute live reaction to this very chapter. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again. And I truly hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a very big thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Red Wolf 4765. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean, Red Wolf 4765, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demix LND. I'd like to give another beefy thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha and iDemokami. And I'd like to give a very hefty thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give another very big scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our two $25 patrons, Ignil and Calvin Elder.